Hello, hello, my lovely people. It is July 1st, so happy summer. We're in it. It's ready. It's 1:30 in the afternoon, Monday. Do I look different? I metamorphosized over the weekend. I am now a certified yoga instructor, and man, was it a weekend. Ah, Bex, look at you, girl. How are you doing today? Can you tell that I changed, I transformed? I'm a certified yoga instructor. So excited. I don't even know that I'll ever teach yoga. I really have wanted to do it for 15 years or more, but honestly just for my own health and practice. So I got that going on. I have been doing so much yoga the last 10 months. I've kind of impressed myself, I must say. Now, who is this Artemer? You were making some really good comments a couple days ago. So let me just get started with all my regular stuff. And thank you for the congratulations, you guys. You're so sweet. I I'm really excited to not be distracting me from doing lives because you guys know how much I love my YouTube. And yeah, I was so nervous about the finals over the weekend. I was like flipping out. I was totally planning on going live on Friday, and I was so freaked out on Friday. I was like, I better not. So I'm glad I didn't, but I miss you. It's been since Thursday since I've seen you. So let me just start with all my normal stuff. Please make sure you're subscribed and share a video of mine if you like. Turn on your notification bell to ring. Say hi to Brando. What you got? The best line from any movie ever. What you got? Even SpongeBob knows that line. One of my kids had that on some SpongeBob pajamas. I wouldn't have known what it meant except that I had just done a deep dive on Brando when I was taking care of the last baby. So that was 12 years ago. So, I just like buckled down and was like the homebody with the baby and studying Brando, studying Capote. It was good. Because, just like housewife stuff, that's not me. I got to do Brando and Capote with it, right? In cold blood. Man, he changed the way we all write and we all think, just like Hemingway. And I never really knew that. I never really understood it. But also true crime, Capote and that In Cold Blood and True Crime, man. He set the stage, much like my man Jack Webb from Dragnet. Okay, I'll stop. Although On the Waterfront, I think is the name of the movie that Jack Webb and this guy were in together. And I think this guy might have won his Oscar for that. On the Waterfront. Does that sound right? I could Google it. I hate being wrong, but I don't want to distract myself and start fubbing Bex and Arter. Am I saying it right? Anyway, I've got some crap to share with you guys. I had some freaking epiphanies over the weekend. Some about Micah Miller's case, some about Kylie Rodney's case, and then an ongoing one that I've had with Trinity Backus's case. So where should I start? I titled it with JP's name in it, so maybe I'll start with that. Okay, you guys know that I'm a licensed mental health professional, and I have been since 1998, so that's a bit of time. And, I did very well in graduate school. I did very well right out of graduate school, but it was I don't know, a couple of years out of graduate school maybe before I knew the difference between bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. My point of bringing this up is that they're very different. And the general population doesn't even know that there's two types of bipolar. And maybe more. I mean, it's different for everybody. But I didn't know that until 2 years out of graduate school. and I had to study it because I was doing those crisis and commitment evaluations. So I did some deep diving on bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. So I'll do a quick explanation. I mentioned it last week, I think, that JP has been describing, we know he's a liar, okay? Like that goes without saying, but he has given himself away. And the problem with being gaslit is like you can't see the forest through the trees. So I've known this for, 25 years plus, but it just dawned on me over the weekend about lithium. Lithium is pretty much never, ever, and there's always going to be an exception. It's not prescribed for bipolar 2. It's not even prescribed as much as it used to be for bipolar 1 because it has a lot of severe side effects, liver toxicity being one very, very serious. So if somebody can be treated with something other than lithium, the prescriber will opt for that. If somebody's treatment resistant and other medications aren't working, they will go for the lithium. Sometimes they'll go straight to the lithium if it just looks like a really bad case. But the difference between bipolar 1 and 2 is that bipolar 1, you have the manic episodes and you have your depressive episodes. Bipolar 2, you don't have the mania. You have what's called hypomania. So it's just kind of like a slow simmer of a mania that's much harder to identify. There are so many people who have bipolar 2 who have no idea that they have bipolar 2. So the depression is just as severe and can be just as lethal, but it's much worse with a manic episode. You're going to crash and burn. So with a hypomanic episode, not so much crash and burn, but yeah, you still have the depressive episodes, and they can, cause a person to commit self-harm. So my major point is that I said it last week that JP was describing Micah's bipolar 2, but with the definition of bipolar 1. So we know he doesn't know what he's talking about. And prescribing lithium, especially 900 milligrams, that's not going to happen for bipolar 2. Bipolar 2, you can pretty much treat with an antidepressant. And some people with bipolar 2 just treat it with behavioral types of implementations. So that's one thing. I mean, the man is insane. The man is completely insane. Did you guys see over the weekend? So today's Monday. So yesterday, he was again showing his tattoo, lifting up his shirt in front of the church for the public because he's just like completely fixated on that tattoo. That is neither here nor there. But anybody who has had a tattoo can tell that that tattoo is brand new because it's shiny, and they're not shiny unless they're new. So the Micah signature, but he's so fixated on that. So he's been making videos of himself lifting up his shirt, taking baby wipes and showing how it's a real temporary one. And he's completely out of his flipping mind. But he also turned sprinklers on for the protests that was happening at his church yesterday, which isn't as bad as his buddy who sprayed some of the protesters in the face with a garden hose. That's straight up assault. Straight up assault. And I don't want to be negative Nancy right from the get-go, but the police didn't seem too alarmed. So I'm thinking that JP has that local police department in his back pocket. We know that he had the lieutenant, and I think that was of the sheriff's department, not the Myrtle Beach Police Department, Lieutenant Heather Wilson. So Brian Wilson, her husband, was the head of security for Solid Rock Church. Heather Wilson was someone who did JP a lot of favors, it seemed. She became the focus of a formal investigation for some of these and was found innocent of any wrongdoing. However, Brian Wilson and his wife, Heather Wilson, subsequently quit going to Solid Rock Church. So that says something, in my opinion. So everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of starting a conversation, hoping to understand these crazy conundrums better, hoping to learn something, and hoping that I can be educational for others. All my videos are made for YouTube. It's an entertainment platform. And thank you guys so much for being here. Love to you both. And let me just get right on the next thing. Lindsay, Kylie Rodney's mom, I think early on in the case, I thought about this, but I had a real life experience a few days ago where my 16-year-old son, who's going to be 17 at the end of this month, went out for a night, not so much of partying, but, out with his girlfriend, and was a long way from home, like 90 minutes from home. And he was supposed to be home, probably 10:30, I think. I think it was Friday. Anyway, maybe it was Thursday night. Either way, I couldn't fall asleep until I knew he was home. And, and we all have the Life 360, so we can track and we know where our family members are. But I just wanted him to be home. I mean, we all know that accidents, most of them happen within 2 miles of a residence of a motor vehicle accident victim. So, it's late. He had a long day and he'd been doing a lot of driving, and he's only 16. So he hasn't been doing all that freeway driving in the dark for very long. And we know that can be challenging. Anywho, he came home and I was awake, and he didn't come say hi to me. He kind of thought he could sneak in since he was a little bit late. Hey, Astro from space. Nice to see you. And it wasn't until the next morning when I woke up and spoke with him and said, hey, when you get home, you need to just come and say hi. If I'm asleep, wake me up. But I let him know that when you're a parent and your teenager is out driving around late at night, you can't fall asleep no matter how tired you are, in my opinion. Sure, there's always going to be the exception. But I thought, man, Lindsay, did she really fall asleep when her smoking hot 16-year-old daughter was at a party in the woods late at night, driving home in really rough terrain? Did she really fall asleep and then stay asleep all the way till morning? I find that really hard to believe, even if she'd had, a glass of wine or something. Even if she had, taken melatonin or something. I find that really hard to believe as a parent. And especially as a parent of a 16-year-old daughter who's smoking hot, who's at a party in the woods in the Sierra Nevada mountains. I'm not buying it. I'm thinking, and I thought this early on in the case, that has to be a lie. What do you guys think? And Jackie Bushable, I do need to rewind, family. Do I need to rewind, family? No, we're just getting started. So I just was talking about how the differences between bipolar 1 and 2, and how lithium is not prescribed for bipolar 2. And JP keeps saying that Micah was diagnosed with bipolar 2, which, there's not a primary care physician on her freaking medical examination report. So that's crazy. if somebody has an actual diagnosis like that and is actually prescribed a medication like lithium that has so many severe side effects, most people who take lithium have to take a lot of medicines to counteract each of the side effects that they experience. So that's just crap. Hey, Boob Tube TV, what up? It was a lie, in my opinion. Yeah, Astro from Space, Lindsay. Yeah, throwing off the timeline. And, I go back to Mr. Mark Investigates and Crime Watch with Kenny. They have always, as far as I know, they've always maintained a very heavy suspicion of something had happened at the lodge. And what's even more suspicious, in my opinion, is that law enforcement didn't scrub down the lodge and try to get like a scent on her and try to get DNA. Weird. Not just weird, suspicious. So we know that the law enforcement in that area is extremely suspicious. Going right into the Trinity Backus case, where was that young woman living when this fatal situation happened a year and a half ago with her? Her mother, Andrea Stanio, had reunited with her ex-husband, Nevada County Sheriff Deputy, Andrea Stanio had moved back in with her ex-husband. They technically divorced, but they were back together. Was Trinity her mother? Because that's kind of the implication, but it's never said where Trinity was living. Trinity was having a sleepover at Auntie Ashley's, allegedly because she couldn't have a sleepover where she was residing. If she was residing with her mother and her mother just moved back in with Deputy Stanio, that would mean Trinity was living at Deputy Stanio's residence. Deputy Stanio happened to be one of the many boots on the ground in Kylie Rodney's disappearance 3 months prior, like August, September, October, November, 3 months prior. What a coinky dink. And then we know that weird connection with Sunshine Fowler, who was tight with Lindsay and helped with the officiating the celebration of life. And Sunshine Fowler is the mother of Trinity Backus's boyfriend at the time of her demise. He had another doppelganger girlfriend named Paisley Woodard, who passed away almost exactly 12 months to the day before Trinity. His second green-eyed, red-haired, gorgeous girlfriend. So by the time he was maybe 17 at the oldest, he already had 2 girlfriends that had passed away. I think Paisley passed away on Halloween or November 1st. She was hit by a car. And that was in Grass Valley. And then Trinity, I think that was like November 7th, if I'm remembering right. Boob tube. That's suspicious and weird. I will never believe the official narrative. Yeah. She was found barefooted in thick briars without a scratch of dirt on her feet. Make it make sense. Okay, Boob Tube TV, I'll make it make sense. Because, I was just saying this a couple days ago. And again, the gaslighting is so severe, it's hard to see the forest through the trees. We know that people put on shoes when they leave a house, especially when it's like snowy and rainy and cold. And if their feet aren't dirty and there's no shoes to be found, it's kind of a giveaway that they were carried out of the house, so that they were either unconscious or maybe expired in the house. I've always suspected that Trinity expired in the house, and even further, that she was located in the shed for a short while. All the cockamamie stories that Auntie Ashley had about the kind of the mess in the living room, hair pulling on the bed, and then the paintbrushes in the shed. I always thought that was covering tracks for something that happened in the living room, something that happened on the bed, and a scent that might be found out in the shed. Yeah. Gross, huh? Absolutely gross. And also very suspicious is Auntie Ashley's alleged boyfriend at the time. His name, I believe, was Logan, and I won't mention his last name because we can look up those things if we really wanted to. Very suspicious. Ashley's whole story that she posted on Facebook. Remember that? Like, very long post about how it all started with Trinity asking her about a sleepover a week before and her saying yeah, and then making Christmas posters. Like, I still don't know what a Christmas poster is, over at her friend's house, and then coming home to see Trinity's car and wondering WTF, and then remembering, oh, right, I said she could have a sleepover, and then getting into the house and immediately being PO'd with Trinity and her friend because there was a mess in the living room. So then that got resolved. And then there was more animosity in Auntie Ashley's own storyline about her being on the bed, and maybe Logan ate food on the bed, and then Ashley was in the bathroom because Logan was in sight with her the whole time she was there, and Trinity was there. She could see where Logan was, is what she's trying to say. And then she's sitting on the bed. So when she's in the bath, Trinity's like, I need to paint. I'm such a good painter. And then Ashley goes off sideways about what a great artist she is, right? In this weird explanation of everything under the sun that wasn't even asked. And then she tells her that the paintbrushes are out there in the shed. And then after she gets out of the bath, Trinity says, oh, let me braid your hair. Because, Trinity used to braid her baby doll's hair when she was little. Again, these like tangents all over the map. And then Trinity was braiding her hair, and then she started pulling her hair. And so they got into it. What? Trinity ran away in her bare feet, sent at the gate. I think it's pretty clear what happened. Squirrel's nose. Absolutely. Why didn't canines pick up her scent outside the property if she was on foot? Exactly. Precisely. Listening while I backfill and harvest my bush beans. So much love and blessings to you all, incredible people. Shan is doing some incredible gardening. If you want to be like extremely impressed, watch her live. I think it was from yesterday, where she's showing off all of her magic beanstalks and such. It's very cool. Boob TV said, already know the topic is Trinity. Yeah. So I'm just covering some of the cockamamie crap that we've all been fed about Micah Miller, about our dear Kylie Rodney, and about Trinity. And these narratives that get conjured up in the beginning, the bad guys, in my opinion, try to establish these narratives up front because they know that it's going to sway public opinion from the outset. That if they can pave the way and make a foundation of, let me tell you what happened, right? Then anything that comes up, they try to fit it into that narrative, and it don't fit, right? If the love don't fit, you must quit. Who was it who said it? It was Veronica Adams who had that joke in my last live, what was it? Something like, what did the angels say to OJ when he showed up at Heaven's Gate? And they said the wings don't fit. That was really funny. I probably didn't say it anywhere near as good as she did. Um, anyway, so yeah, these BS stories, OJ had a lot of BS stories, didn't he? All of the photographs that I'm sorry, where'd Michelle come from? That Nicole Brown Simpson had taken of the bruises on her face, the black eyes. OJ tried to say that that was her picking at her zits and blackheads. Yeah, right. And again, he had the police in his back pocket. Allegedly, Nicole Brown Simpson had called 911 on many occasions for domestic violence, bruised and battered, when she was still living at the was it called Rockwell Estate, the mansion. Oh, can I go on a quick OJ tangent? Because most of you guys, if you've seen me talk about it, you might know it's very, very not commonly known about OJ Simpson's 2-year-old baby girl that drowned in his swimming pool at the Rockwell Estates. I think when Nicole Brown Simpson was about 17 years old. He'd already started dating her, and he started dating her when his wife was pregnant with that 2-year-old. And then when that 2-year-old drowned in that pool, he went running to Nicole. So maybe she was about 19 at the time. And then the older sister, who was significantly older, so I can't imagine that she didn't have survivor's guilt. I want to say her name is something, and that she was like 12 years old when it happened. So she was 10 years older than her baby sister. And then there was a brother who might have been years old, I think, when it happened. I'd have to look it up. It's been a while. But I mean, you can Google all this and fact check. It's really creepy that Arnell is the daughter's name that survived, who was also living in the second pool house the night that Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman were slaughtered. So we all know Cato was living in the one pool house. A lot of people don't even know that there was a second pool house and that Arnell was living in it. And she was home that night. And I think she testified for like, I don't know, a really short period of time, like maybe an hour-ish, if that. She was pretty much left out of the case entirely. But so she's living at that pool, next to the pool where her baby sister passed away when she was 12. And I don't know the whole story. Like, I thought that I had, a long time ago when I first learned about it, found out that they were having a party, or that maybe the next door neighbor was having a party, and that the 2-year-old, who was, I think, almost 3, that she went over to the pool and people didn't notice until it was too late. But then when I was looking at the case, that tragedy more recently, I couldn't find anything about the party. So I don't know what the situation was other than what I've just shared with you. Very, very, very tragic. And the PTSD that somebody lives with, losing a sibling, losing a kid. I mean, the poor family, that is just hideous, absolutely heartbreaking. And that he already had this teenage girlfriend. And then who does that remind you of, having the teenage girlfriend? I just dropped my pencil, but where's my pen? I like a pen a little bit better sometimes anyway. But yeah, so he already had his teenage girlfriend, and he then divorced the wife, the mother of his 3 kids, and then he marries Nicole Brown Simpson. Says that they didn't get involved until she was 18. Who does this remind you of? JP. And I did find out over the weekend that Susie Skinner is 49 years old. Before the weekend, I was doing some math and assessments and thinking that she might have been around 50, which is neither here nor there, but it's interesting to me because JP seems to really like his females of the teenage years, and she's quite a bit older. Susie Chapstick, as I've been calling her, Susie Skinner. So we have to look at Christopher Skinner's drowning and the whole big picture with that, with him confronting JP 2 weeks before that happened and telling JP directly, leave my wife and kids alone. And then him ending up in the pool. And then JP officiating his services when he was not friends with JP. He was not on good terms with JP. Like, that's really sus. Really, really sus. There's so much about Chris Skinner's passing that needs to be looked at. I think that case needs to be reopened. Doesn't the whole thing just kind of remind you of the Daybells all over again? Really gross. Seriously. And yeah, no one is safe. So yesterday, with all these protesters in front of the church, and it wasn't that many, but I'm glad that the ones that were there were there. JP invited one of them into the church with him. Would you go into a building with JP, like his territory, when he's already identifying you as being in opposition to him? Why did he want this person to go in there with him? What was he up to? That's really frightening to me. And maybe he just wanted to sweet talk this person. I don't know if this person was male or female, if anybody else knows. I mean, I've been trying to keep up with the Robbie Harvey show, JLR, Veronica Adams, Tough Topic. All of those content creators have been really hitting it out of the ballpark, staying on top of that whole situation. And it just continues to get more and more outlandish. So where are we at? We're at 2:00. So we've been on just for about half an hour. I'm just kind of coming out of my yoga fog. I was going to go over a quick little exercise with you guys because I like to share ways that we can all take better care of ourselves. And I think I taught you guys this a while ago. I'm pretty sure I did at least once, if not twice. Just the simple neck stretch. If you have a neck injury, don't do it. If it feels safe and comfortable to you, I'm going to demonstrate a simple stretch we can all do right now that is one of my favorites. So first, just dropping the right ear to the right shoulder, and then applying a very light pressure with the right fingertips. You can kind of move your head a little bit to kind of feel the massage and the stretch, and then bringing your head back up to neutral, and then dropping the left ear to the left shoulder. And the same thing if you want to apply that light pressure, and just move the head and the neck a little bit forward and back. And voila. I love it. Yeah. A lot of neck stretches. So I was so excited to teach my whole routine to my whole class on Saturday. It was awesome. And I'm going to continue to teach that class to myself and to other people. I love that class. I love that routine. And you guys know how much I love you. So I'm just wanting to share a little bit. I don't want anyone to feel like I'm preaching. There's my pen. Yay. I don't want to preach about the yoga or anything else. Eating your veggies, Shan is like the best example ever. Damn, like all she's eating is fresh organic vegetables out of her very own garden, fresh picked. Like that's where you get the most nutrients and the best flavor too. My neck cracked. Thank you. Aw, yeah. So I learned this adjustment with, I do it at the end of my practice, but I haven't been able to show it to you because I need somebody else to do it with me. But if anybody else knows this little adjustment series, so you have your person laying on the ground, and you can try this with your kids or with your friends. They'll love it. And you can teach it to them so they can do it to you. So you first come and you sit at the bottom of their feet and you just pull on their ankles, and you can like lean your weight back. Just you're kind of pulling the hips from the sockets. I mean, not like out of the sockets or anything, but you know what I mean. And then just really giving a nice little like touch and not massage to the feet, but just a nice firm, caring squeeze on the feet. And then stepping over the person and bringing one hand to their opposite shoulder, pulling it up, getting in there with your fingertips and finding their shoulder blade and pulling their shoulder blade out and kind of pushing their shoulder out and down, and then crisscrossing your arms and then pulling up that other shoulder and doing the same. It's kind of funny finding the shoulder blade, especially when I did the whole class, because everybody's hiding their shoulder blades in different places. Like seriously, everyone's shoulders are so different. So then you pull that other shoulder out and then you press them both down just firmly, and then stepping over them and sitting above their head so that you've got one foot on each of their shoulders. And then with your fingertips grabbing under the base of the skull and just pulling like you're going to try to pop their head right off their neck. Again, as long as they're okay with it. And when you're doing this, you check in with your person and tell them what you're doing so that, you never want to touch anybody without consent and explanation of what to expect. Especially when, if you're like the yoga instructor and this is your student, you don't just like jump over to them and start doing adjustments. You make an announcement that you are going to offer these adjustments. Anybody who wants the adjustment can signal you. Anybody who doesn't want the adjustment can signal you too. And if you're misunderstanding their signals, like just keep an open line of communication. So then pulling the head from the nape of the neck, like you get where their skull, there's like a nice little ridge there, and you can get your fingertips under. And as you're doing that, you're pushing down on their shoulders with your feet. So you have to be barefoot for this. And it is such a good feeling. And then, your fingers will just kind of naturally slide up and off their head while you're doing that. And then I just kind of do a little, like, not massage on the forehead, but just kind of like a little magic fairy dust kind of motion. And that's it. And like my 12-year-old, I did my routine with her late at night, the night before my finals, because I was so nervous. I begged her. She's done it before and she liked it, but she wasn't in the mood for it. But I talked her into it. And I asked her when we were done, what's your favorite part? And she said the adjustments. So I thought that was cute. And I haven't read the feedback yet that my cohort of students gave me. So it'll be interesting to read their reviews of my class and see if anybody mentions like what their favorite part was. So when's your next live Squirrels on Fire gonna teach me how to cook? I eat organic takeout and pre-made meals and fresh veggies we grow, but I really need to learn to do it myself. Oh, yeah. So actually, Ara was going to be doing a cooking channel. I don't know if she's done it. Do you know, Squirrels? I know I've watched at least one video of her cooking. And she is a really good cooking video person. Like, just watching her make sweet Italian sausage. I think it was like a pasta dinner like a year ago. And it was like 45 minutes long. And at first I thought, I don't really want to watch this, but I got so into it. Like whether she was talking about Kylie Rodney or whether she was talking about cooking, it was awesome. So she said she was going to be doing a second channel, and I've tried to keep up with that, but I don't know. I know she's been busy. Oh, good. Going live on Squirrels on Fire tonight, actually. Very cool, Shan. We will try to be there. Hello, Fred Field. No notification. So also, Larissa Slaughter is talking about doing a cooking channel, or, doing cooking instruction on her YouTube. So I really appreciate Larissa's reviews of the musty buckets lately. Anybody else who appreciates Larissa Slaughter's reviews of musty buckets, please put a oh my goodness. Shan, I am so sorry that you have to deal with her BS. Like, I'm surprised she hasn't come after me. You should just be flat. Take it as a compliment. What a... And yeah, we don't need to talk about that, but let's talk about calling out bogus content creators, or when people are doing... Jules of All Trades did a really good video, I think it was yesterday, reviewing 10 to Life's terrible, ridiculous Idaho 4 case video of late. And I really appreciated everything that Jules was saying. She was extremely thorough, and she doesn't care if she's going to offend somebody, because her goal is, in my opinion, her goal is to try to keep the integrity of YouTube content creators. Because when we've got these bogus content creators, especially the ones that are super high profile, it's going to be the demise of the entire platform, in my opinion. And it's my opinion that is what some of these probably want. And with, Squirrels has very strong feelings about it, and I really agree with her. The case is just bogus from the ground up. And I think it's important that we all understand that it's not a conspiracy theory and it's not paranoia to think that cases are some kind of a psyops, because in actuality, in true reality, everything is some type of experiment for our government. I mean, that's just the way it is. My grandfather worked in the Pentagon. My son is there in DC right now, working very closely with all of this stuff. Everything is an experiment with the population. So, YouTube is an experiment. The content creation is an experiment. The cases are, the way they're presented in mainstream media and the way they're presented here. We definitely have content creators that are plants, for lack of a better term. And to think that that's any kind of conspiracy theory or paranoia is seriously naive. So another thing I feel like is seriously naive with all of these cases, and I'm going to put Trinity Backus in there too. Mostly I've been thinking about Micah Miller, Kylie Rodney, and the Idaho 4. To think that these beautiful young women, that none of them were violated in that most intimate way, is pretty naive and loose. That's been completely whitewashed and removed as even a remote possibility in the mainstream media narrative of what happened with each of these cases, and with Trinity Backus. And I believe with that case, I believe with Kylie's case, that there probably was assaults. I don't like to go there. It was only a few days ago that I thought with Micah Miller, with the gang stalking, that there could have been an assault, violated and threatened, and then made that 911 call under duress. I don't know if that 911 call was her. I don't know if it was artificial intelligence, but that call is absolutely bizarre. And it's just a little too convenient. Like all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed, that, yeah, this is her doing right where she is. Too many stamps, as Veronica Adams said with JP, Not only did he have a group of people around him when he got the call that night that she was found deceased, he also paid for everybody's dinner. Did you guys hear about that? He paid for everybody's dinner after the game. So Susie Skinner and Chris Skinner have twins. I know Chris is deceased, her late husband. They have twins that are 12 years old. And then one of JP's kids is close in age, and they were doing a sports thing on that day that Micah was up there at Lumber River State Park. They were doing a sports thing down in South Carolina, Charleston, I think, right? And she's his freaking alibi, but so is the receipt that he just happens to have from paying for everybody's freaking dinner after the game. Like, that's not his normal cheapskate way, but that's a really good way to have your receipt to say, oh, look, this is where I was, and look at all the witnesses that saw me there and think I'm the best guy in the world for buying them dinner. Very, very suspicious behavior, in my opinion. Let's see. I stopped watching them both, but Jules, I watch all of her content. Both being, I can't remember the other one I mentioned, the 10 to Life, and the other one, I don't know. If you, I think I know who you're talking about. You don't need to say. Yeah, 10 to Life. I used to like her until she got these big contracts, and then she kind of all sideways, weird. Like, she's in cahoots with News Nation, isn't she? Like, she's got a contract with the same people that contract with News Nation. You can only fight lies with truth. I never wanted a channel, but here I am. I appreciate those who call it the BS. Exactly. And yeah, I mean, I would hate to be one of these channels that has sold out for the big bucks to mainstream media, because then you're just their puppet. Like, it would be hard to resist the dollars if you're being offered, 6 figures or something. But it's not about the money. And I mean, some of these content creators, I'm sure, are doing extraordinarily well, like Christina Randall or Bailey Syrian, a whole bunch of them that are cashing in big time, like I'm sure more than any of us can imagine. But there's, those of us who barely make a dime. I think I've made 15 cents total. Proud to say I'm a total sellout. Money does talk, but feeling like you're doing something important is way more important. Reminds me of a really funny Dilbert cartoon that I saw many, many years ago. It's always stuck with me, Dilbert with the little cubicles, and he's being given options by like the devil and an angel. And the options are that you can do very meaningful work all day, every day at work in your cubicle, and have it all burned in front of you at the end of the day. Or you can do just fluff, meaningless work all day in your little cubicle and get paid huge piles of cash. Which would you pick? And his answer is what I love. Well, both of them sound better than the job I have right now. Do you like it? I don't tell jokes too often because I'm not good at remembering them. But let's see. I didn't get any ones in here about the musty buckets thing. So if you thought that joke was funny, give me a 1. I need some ones just to feel important. No, I'm just kidding. Doesn't matter either way. So yeah, BoobTube TV says it very well. Yeah, we all need to call out the BS. And, if we make mistakes, we can call ourselves out on our own BS, right? That's crazy. There's Skinners around Kylie's case. Austin from Austin, Skinners? No. Not sure if they still have a RV at the Hirsch. No, I'm not aware of the Skinners in Kylie's case, Shan, unless I was aware and then forgot. Or if they're related, but odd. Thanks for the one, BoobTube TV. I love it. I wish I was better at telling jokes. I could tell you guys a couple of the worst jokes ever to repeat them. And by saying them on my YouTube channel, I could really blow my reputation. So why don't I go ahead and do it? Okay. The first one is, do you know the difference between flirting and sexual harassment at work? These are very politically incorrect. So careful, but I'm not, since I'm telling them. Do you know the difference between flirting and sexual harassment? If they're good looking, it's flirting. If they're not, it's sexual harassment. True. True stories. And then the other one is probably even worse, especially if you're a dude. But just because I'm a woman, I shouldn't be able to get away with saying them. I think both of these jokes I heard from guys. And one of them I heard on the radio. I think it was this one that I heard on the radio in Seattle by a male DJ. And I was like, oh, man, he's playing with fire, and bless him. Bless him. Are you ready? I don't know if I've ever told this joke on my channel. I'm so careful about it. Do you know why premenstrual syndrome is called that? PMS, premenstrual syndrome. Do you know why it has that name? Because the mad cow disease was already taken. Okay, you can turn me off now. I'm sure YouTube's going to just shut down my channel. Is that too awful? If they're dad jokes, sign me up. Oh, that's hilarious, BoobTube. No, I don't do dad jokes. I can't with my serious situation that I've told you guys I want to share more freely now that I know that he's gone to the other side. What a relief that is to know. So, shall we talk about that for a minute? Unless, Squirrels, if you want to say more about the Skinners, I'm very curious because I don't remember the Skinners. I remember the RV at Hirschdale. And I also remember that crazy 911 call that Casey, Lake Time with Casey, he had that, the dispatch records of that night. I want to say it was a few nights after Kylie allegedly went missing. And then the call came in the middle of the night, maybe like 2 a.m, about a car matching her vehicle's description outside of that deli where the alleged last proof of life was. And it was by the intersection of Hirschdale and something else. And so her silver vehicle was parked there. And then in the police notes, it said like not to do anything until 7 a.m. when a specific officer came on duty. And it was like officer number 2, I think, which would be code for like the second highest rank in the department. Really weird. Really, really weird that if they're looking for this vehicle and somebody calls it in at 2 o'clock, why would you not respond for 5 hours? So many weird things in that case. It's just bone chilling. Absolutely bone chilling. Oh, well, Ma said PMS is putting up with men. But what do I know? Oh, that's funny. Putting up with men's shite. That's a good one. That's a funny one. August 11th, BoobTube TV thinks. Thank you for that specific date. That's great. Squirrels says the Skinners are the couple that checking recorded that had the dog and people thought was Hazmat, the couple who argued with Skidmark. And then that dog that was buried in the area where Zanime went, you know, typically that's done, like burying an animal over a grave to mask any detection, any smell, right? Yes, squirrel, I remember that. Yeah. The Skinners were the couple. Okay. Yeah. Just that whole thing with I mean, just Zanime, like just Zanime. You don't even need to say anything more about her. Just her being in this story is sus AF. Everything about her. Her and her little kayaking trip, her and her little journey to her friend with cancer, who is allegedly Charlie. Forgetting Charlie's full name right now. You guys know. Shan knows. And whatever happened to Charlie? Charlie was allegedly in a very bad car accident. Charlie with cancer then had a very bad car accident. Whatever happened to that? Was there ever any follow-up on that, Shan, that you know of? And then the whole thing with her little like circus music video driving on the road to get to Prosser, and then that weird arrow in the dirt, all of it, you guys. And then her coming out onto Ickmael to argue with Ryan Upchurch, and man, Upchurch did such a good job with her because she is a good gaslighter. She's a professional fixer, in my opinion, and she's a professional for entities that we all know about. We don't need to say them. Her little resume. And then her whole connection to I mean, she had so many weird connections to Mexico, to rescuing her family members. Yeah, she was like an angel, wasn't she? She was like this cute little military angel who was like saving the day all the time. She was just like the bee's knees. And she just thought she could come in here and throw everybody off track with Kylie Rodney. And that whole thing about getting rolled in Truckee, that's what I was going to say about how Jack and Jill fell down the hill. You know, she had hazmat in one hand and her cell phone and the charger, and she's walking up a hill or down a hill, and she got tumbled, right? Tumbled in Truckee. Holderman, thank you, squirrels, Bex. Yeah, Charlie Holderman, what happened? AKA not Shan. Oh, is that what Musty Buckets? See, I don't pay attention to her either. She accused Shan of being Charlie Holderman. That's a good one. That's a really good one. I got to give it to her on that. Oh, my goodness. How ridiculous. And date on her phone not matching upload date. Well, and then she edited the video that she did of herself going out there in the kayak. And like you're going to go sleep at a lake where a teenager just disappeared a few days prior, you're going to sleep in your car by yourself when you have a good job. You can afford a hotel room. Oh, and you also have a friend who lives in town that you're visiting. Right. Goodness, how anyone can think Squirrels on Fire is Chuck is beyond me. What a nut. Oh, I could see it, Boob Tube TV. I mean, it's a stretch, but I could see it. And take that as a compliment, Shan. Nothing but a compliment. My issue with her is photo mixed with crisis management and how she went on back end of Prosser to get to the campground. Right. She went around the areas that were blocked off. And what was she doing? What was she checking on? And then she went over to where the dog was discovered. Musty needs a reality check. Well, anybody sending Musty money needs a reality check, unless they just hate their money and they're trying to get rid of it all and they don't care, like, if it goes into the garbage. Like, that's just freaking nuts. So nutty. Nuttier than a fruitcake. The tape was still up when she snuck in the ass end of the ground, right? I believe so, BoobTube. Absolutely. Yes, it was. True Jazz. That it was. Okay, so here we go. The 13th and the 14th. Then it was the 13th or the 14th before anyone else on YouTube. So was the 13th or the 14th the day that Zanime went out there in her little kayak? Because I think it was my last video where I had mentioned in that case and other cases is that these communities, these non-church-like communities, these anti-church-like communities, that they like that number 13, just like they like the number 6. And so I couldn't remember. I knew something significant happened on August 13th. And then I can remember September 13th was the day that Kylie Rodney's autopsy report was released. I can't remember something happened on October 13th, but I'm going to guess that it probably did, something significant. And then November 13th was the Idaho 4. And then December 14th was Kopaka. So a day off. So August, September, November, and December. All the 13th except the December one that was a day later. She recorded the tape right before she pans and says, "There she is. I'd love for her to explain what she is." Yeah, just like I'd love for Scammy to have to explain what she meant when she said, "Not this time." And thank you to Ninja Chihuahua, who just did a really good video about that I'll put in the links. I'll put your gardening farmers link in there too, Squirrels, because I thought that was very impressive. I really liked it. She's like Jack growing the beanstalks, you guys. And all that rain that you've been having is like making those things just shoot up. I think her phone said the 13th, if I remember correctly. Wow. Yeah, and that whole thing with Scammy when she said, "I have her completely," and then she just stopped. And then I'm pretty sure she was like, "Huh? What was I saying? I forget." Right? Wasn't that how that went in that Tony Dodge interview? I have her completely. Like, WTF was she about to say? I have her completely. That's crazy. That is so crazy. As is the that sometimes people fight about who actually won the title. Ninja does a good job of that too, pointing out that that's a thing. So first she tries to act like these little play fights are no big deal, but then she slips by saying the title. So it is a big deal. You want the title. And sometimes people fight over who actually won, but not this time. And it's not just what she says, it's how she says it. The look on her face, her demeanor, her enunciation. She kind of like speaks a little lower, like it's a secret, but not this time. Oh man, that's loaded. That has a lot of meaning. There's absolutely zero doubt. What did she mean? Not this time. Was that because somebody was not alive? And the title, what is that? Like Queen of Truckee? Is that the title? The future Queen of Truckee? Was Kylie set to be in kind of a role like that with her granddad wanting her to inherit the lodge? So here she was, not even 17, and she was kind of on the fast track to be important pillar of the society, especially in the community society, because it sounds like they did a lot of their rituals or meetings or retreats, whatever you want to call them, out there at the lodge. It seemed like that summer camp stuff that Lindsay was doing was like a training for it, didn't it? You guys have seen the little kids with all their crystals and feathers and tarot cards, and I don't know. I mean, to me, that stuff is for grown-ups. There was another content creator a long time ago who said that, and it could have been Ara. I can't remember who it was, but yeah, like that's weird. Like that's kind of like, people see that stuff as black magic, and it's just weird to me to have little kids with tarot cards. Like, yeah, little kids play with Ouija boards because Ouija boards are kind of aimed at kids, but tarot cards are not aimed at kids. It's just creepy AF. I'm currently on the 8th compiling the fire cams. I should skip to the 13th, 16th to see when Zanime pulls up. Sounds like a good plan, Shan. So where are we at? It is just a little bit after 2:30, and we've just gone over an hour. I do want to share with you guys more, just like off the cuff, about the whole experience with my father. That if you want to, and I don't want to be misleading. It's not that I'm trying to string anybody along. It's just that I get caught up in these cases, and they're kind of more important to me because they're active. Like the thing with my father, I can kind of put to rest since he's deceased now. It is weird that I had such a strong feeling that he had died in those Lahaina fires, and he might not have. He might have died around the same time as the Lahaina fires, because what it said on the announcement was July 23rd. But it's quite possible that there were fires on July 23rd, or it's quite possible that there's different dates being used so that they can stick with their little number of like 100 deceased when it's obvious that it was way more than that. And it seems like locals from Hawaii, like not just Maui, but all the islands, know that this was the do the do. And they also know that Paradise in California was also due the direct energy weapons, right? And both of those for the plan of the smart cities. Let's see. Bathrooms at the campground were not maintained again until the 16th. So police tape went down on the 15th or 16th. Fred says, when I pulled my 2023 Kona out of the garage this morning to go to work, the odometer read, oh man, all those sixes scared me at 4 a.m. Yeah, I do not like that. Like I've pumped gas and had it stop with 3 6s, and I'll like pump an extra couple of cents just to keep that from happening. Because yeah, I'm very, very superstitious. I do not like that. Especially at 4 a.m. That's a spooky time of day or spooky time of night. Be interesting to see what Prosser and Donner cams are the 13th through 17th. I run these streets, Sammy Smith via TikTok. Right. She's the social coordinator. She organizes all the parties. That's like her thing. She's the queen of the group. She's the little social ambassador of the teenagers of Truckee, it seems, in my opinion. Musty Buckets thinks she runs these streets too. Oh man, she is such a ridiculous joke and such a distraction. I don't know that she's a ridiculous distraction, whether she is or not. And yeah, she's only hurting the case, and she very well could be doing that intentionally. I mean, what a kind of like that Dilbert joke, right? she's doing both the meaningless work and it's getting burned in front of her at the end of the day. I mean, my goodness. The only thing Methy, that's a good name for her, runs is her misinformed gaping maw. Yeah, and she runs a comb through that wig to cover that receding forehead. Yeah, when I first saw the purple hair, I thought she had dyed her hair, when she first pulled that wig out, like right after she started her channel. I was like, well, at least that's an improvement. But yeah, it's a wig. And wasn't she one of the people who was talking smack about Xaname's purple hair? And then all of a sudden she has purple hair? I'm pretty sure. Always running that Twinkie hole. That's a good one, Boob TV. BoobTube TV. I always leave the tube out. So let me talk about the thing with my father for a few minutes, because it is always therapeutic. So I was 11. I was in the sixth. We moved back and forth every year, basically from California to Washington, D.C. area. It was always Washington, D.C. area. It was always California, almost always. Usually southern, sometimes northern. But it was always in the summer when school was out. Again, almost always. Like every freaking summer we moved. It was really a pain in the rear end. This was my father who did this. My mom lived in Washington, D.C., and she stayed put. And it was as though he was trying to draw her to the West Coast to come visit the kids so that he could then manipulate her by having her in his home and dependent on him or something like that. And then when it didn't work, he would go back to DC and try from that angle. And then when that didn't work, he'd go back to California. Very unstable person. And, didn't care that he was dragging these kids back and forth and that we had to leave our friends and family all the time. I mean, it was really, really harsh, but at least he waited until school was out usually. So when I was in sixth grade, when I was 11, he didn't wait till school was out. He did this in January, and he had told me and my sister and everybody that we knew that he got a really great job offer in Tampa, Clearwater, St. Pete's, as if it was all one place. He got this great job offer in Tampa, Clearwater, St. Pete's, and he had a really good job at the time. He had one of the best jobs he ever had. He worked at UCLA. He was the editor of a single parenting magazine. So he was a writer trade, and he was actually getting a paycheck, and he actually had a job. And it was actually something that he knew about since he was a single parent. The only other job that he had that was of that caliber was at Gallaudet College in Washington, D.C., and he was the sports editor at Gallaudet College, which, if you're familiar, that's a very famous school for deaf, dumb, and blind. So that was a cool job. But UCLA was also super cool, the single parenting magazine. And so he said that he had this great job offer that was much better pay, blah, blah, blah. And he up and moved us at the end of January. And it was on this cross-country road trip with the station wagon, with the back seat down, and it was like a bed back there. And that was where my sister and I would ride while he was driving cross country. And the night that this happened, he stopped at the McDonald's in Arizona, and he bought us Big Macs and fries and probably Coke, and we ate them, and then we almost died. So, make a long story short, he had us eating in the car, which didn't make sense. Like, we asked if we could go into the restaurant to eat in there since we were, crammed up in the car on the road. And it would only make sense to eat in the car if you're on the road, right? But instead, he parked the car in this giant parking lot. It was like a trucker's McDonald's, and very far from the restaurant. And my sister was sitting, we were both kind of sitting right behind the front seat. And he had his window down this far. And mind you, he always worked on the car himself, and he tuned up the car himself before we left for this trip. So he's sitting there with his nose, and I noticed that the window was right at his nose level. And my sister started saying that she felt really sick and she felt like she was going to pass out and she needed to lie down. And he said, that's fine, lay down in the back. And she did. She went to the very back of the station wagon and she laid down and she passed out and almost died. And I was still sitting there right behind the front seat. And the dog was resting his head on my lap and he looked like he was about to throw up. And so I opened up the car door to get away from the dog throwing up. And then I blacked out. So I was getting the carbon monoxide poisoning too, but didn't sense it at all. Like I didn't feel tired. I didn't feel anything. I just saw the dog about to throw up and then passed out. So some of you guys have heard parts of this story. So then the next thing I know, I'm laying on the blacktop and there's a ton of people around and a ton of emergency lights, paramedics, just a lot of activity, a lot of drama. And then I don't really remember in the ER. And when we're in the ER, I'm fine. Like I'm around, I'm 11, I'm totally fine. And my sister is still kind of passed out in a gurney. And she's made it. She's out of the woods, but she almost didn't make it. And the social worker and the police officer were talking with my dad, and I was standing right there with the three of them. And you guys have probably heard me say this part of the story before. I'm looking for something red, but it doesn't matter. Like red, like really, really, really red. Like that. Like much redder than blood is. The social worker had a vial of my sister's blood and she shook it in front of my dad's face and she said, I've never seen blood this red on a person who's alive. Your daughter should not have made it, basically. And she was really angry. She was really frustrated. And his response was basically where he blew it. And he said something, well, I've never heard of carbon monoxide poisoning. And as an 11-year-old, when he said it, I had never heard of it either. Here's a good red. If this shows up on the screen, like this red was the color of her blood in the vial. So I said, I hope I have pants on, right? I'm pretty sure I do, but you never know. Oh, that would just be the worst. I mean, I have long pants on. This is why I don't even wear shorts, or I try not to wear like skirts, is because I look that way. But anyway, back to the point. So when he said that, and I've told you guys this part probably more than once, the police officer and the social worker, like basically were ready to like turn the room upside down. Like it was as if they threw their clipboards up in the air and were just like ready to tackle him and beat him to a pummel. And I'm thinking, well, I've never heard of carbon monoxide poisoning, so I'm believing him. Plus, he's my father, and I got along with him very well, and everything seemed pretty hunky to me, other than the whole like moving back and forth all the time. I didn't like that. And then the jig was up. Like they knew at that point. So then we stayed in town for about 4 days. We stayed at a really nice hotel. We got to eat in the fancy hotel restaurant. There was the swimming pool. That's all we did was like eat at the fancy restaurant, hang out in the pool, and watch TV in the room. And that's not how we traveled when we traveled cross country. We would sleep in the car or go to the cheap motels or eat the McDonald's or peanut butter and jelly, whatever. So we were living high on the hog and we were loving it. It wasn't until years later that I realized that he wasn't paying for all that. But essentially he wasn't allowed to leave town, and so they had to put us up. I asked him at the time, I was like, wow, this is nice hotel, nice swimming pool, nice food, how long are we staying, and why are we staying? And he was like, you guys had a rough time, I'm just trying to, like, spoil you and get things back on track. And I bought it. I was like, okay. But then one of the times when we were eating at the restaurant, and he was usually not with us at the table when we were eating in the hotel restaurant, he would be like talking with some other adults at some other table, right? So he came over from the group that he was with, and he came over to the table where my sister and I were sitting and eating, and he said, get up, we're leaving. And we left the restaurant, and we left the hotel, and we left town. We left Arizona. And this was probably 10 years before he got banned from the state of Colorado. And that happened after I lost contact with him. But yeah, I think he got banned from the state of Colorado actually only a few years later, now that I kind of put two and two together, because I was 11 then, and then I was 15 when I found out that he got banned from the state of Colorado. So he got banned from the state of Colorado maybe just a year or two later. Wow, that's good to think about. I'm still putting the pieces of the puzzle together because it was never told to me. It was all like these little segments of things that I didn't know fit together. I didn't know that there was a puzzle to fit together until I knew that there was. So then when we arrived to St. Pete's, Tampa, Clearwater, if you've ever been there, Tampa's a big city. Clearwater is a small town, and St. Pete's is like a really small, specific place. They're all really nice, but Tampa's a huge city. Clearwater's a moderate size city or small city, large town, and St. Pete's is like probably a village. It's a very small town and very, very nice. All of it's very nice. So it was just always funny the way he said that we were going to this place. So by the time we got there, he said that the job had been basically canceled. So we stayed at a travel lodge, with the teddy bear, sleeping cap, and the jammies. And it's the only time I've ever stayed at a travel lodge. And that's one of my triggers, is seeing that teddy bear. Seeing a travel lodge kind of freaks me out, because we stayed at the travel lodge for a few days. He drove us up to this really nice corporate building with this really nice lit up fountain in front of it one night at like 9 or 10 o'clock, and said, yep, that's where the job was that got canceled. And we're just like, oh, okay. And then he made friends with this guy. I won't say Greg's last name, but he made friends with this guy, Greg, at a gas station. And Greg had a very young family, I think a wife and 3 little kids, if I'm remembering right. We moved in with Greg and his wife and 3 kids for like a month. So me and my sister and my dad stayed with the family. And Greg was an undertaker, of all things. He across the street from the funeral home that he worked at. He was a very nice man, super sweet. They put us up for a month. We went to church, youth group. We started making friends. They were gonna give my father savings so that he could get started in a nice apartment and get a job. He gave them this whole sob story about how he had a great job in a nice apartment and then moved out here for a better job and a better apartment, and it got, the rug pulled out from under him. So they bought that hook, line, and sinker. And I'm pretty sure they gave him all of his money. And then we went to Washington, D.C. So we were only there for a month, like mooching off of them for a month. And then went to my mom's place up there in D.C. And yeah, so that's the story, the chronology of it. And then we lived at my mom's friend's house that she it was an investment that she was going to rent it out. And it was in Alexandria, Virginia. My mom lived on 17th Street, I think 17th and K in DC, and she had a super cool apartment. And then we lived in this house out in Alexandria for the rest of the school year. And then we moved back to Southern California at the end of that school year. So it wasn't until many years later that I found out that he never paid my mom's friend a dime to live in that house. He never got a job there in DC area. I mean, I'm sure he swindled a lot of people out of a lot of money, but he was quite a piece of work. Okay, what have you guys been saying? Did I miss much? Hey, Veronica Adams. I've been telling my little life trauma of what got me where I am today, and basically what makes me tick, and what really gives me the motivation to focus on true crime and focus on the cases that I focus on. Nice to see you. Oh, and I love your last videos. Oh my God, you guys. I put a link to her little 2-minute video in the description of my last video. Funny AF. You got to check it out. She's quite the comedian. And then the last one was really good, but I'm not remembering it off the top of my head. I'm remembering the thumbnail because it's got kind of cartoons on it. Squirrels on Fire. You mean that big of billboard in front of her head? She claims we all put secret coats on. Even after who she incessantly tags says the biatch is nuts. I have a SS on my community page. Oh yeah, I'll have to check that out. BoobTube TV. I'm surprised he even knows who she is, even though she incessantly tags him on everything. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people incessantly tag him on everything. I'll admit it. I used to tag him in all my videos when I started, because I was trying to get people to watch my channel, and I was told that if I did something like that, that it would help. And it did, I think. I would tag him and somebody else. I can't remember. Maybe it was just him. Anyway, yeah. And Veronica's doing well. So yeah, Veronica, you shared that your mom had a similar fate to Micah. My mom was very afraid that she would have a similar fate to Micah. And she didn't think that the rat bastard would ever do anything to the children, but he did. He tried. I mean, he poisoned us with the carbon monoxide. He made a very very calculated attempt on our lives. I mean, he had this whole thing mapped out, and it took me years and years and years to figure it all out. And then I realized, wow, if it had happened, if it had been fatal, sure that my mom would have gotten out there to Arizona, probably her parents too, my grandparents. But he probably was just thinking that he would not only get back at her by doing that, but then really be able to manipulate her by traumatizing her like that. That's, I think, what his motivation was. So when that fell apart, he basically a couple months later showed up on our front door with the 2 kids, from Tampa, Clearwater, St. Pete's up to DC. And then we stayed at her friend's place out there in Alexandria. And then we went back to Southern California, Malibu to be specific, so people think, oh, you lived in Malibu, you guys must have been wealthy. No, he was trying to hang out with the rich and famous. He was trying to hobnob and elbows. And let's see. And yeah, he never really, I don't think he ever got another job after that, did he? He was just running scams. He had a secret name. He had a mailbox in Los Angeles on Wilshire Boulevard, and he would pick up his mail there all the time, and it was usually addressed to Steve Kincaid, And that was like his, his scammer name. And I asked him one day, I was like, what's this, Steve Kincaid? Who's that? And he said something like, that's my stage name or something, because he was trying to write movies for Hollywood. He was trying to write sitcoms and stuff like that. I mean, he thought that he was a genius. I mean, he was a genius, but he thought that he was a genius way beyond reality. He was completely delusional, and he thought he was going to be discovered one of these days. So he always thought he was on the brink of being the next big thing, basically. And let's see, get caught up with you guys. You've had a very interesting life, Jess. Thank you for sharing. Well, thanks for listening. I'm just glad that I've survived it. I'm glad that I've been able to put things together. It's really helped me to like trust my instinct and my intuition, because as I've shared with you guys, that ER scene many times, although I did that it was intentional, I was a very sharp kid, and I could see what was going on with the social worker and the police officer that were already suspicious of him. And then they were like beyond suspicious of him. Like I said, they were ready to just like tackle him and beat him to a pulp. Like they had it. And then, they couldn't like hold him. So once he found out that they didn't have enough to hold him, then he split. And, I've thought about trying to find the police report there from wherever it was in Arizona. I've looked at the maps of where it could have been right off the freeway. And I don't know, maybe someday I will, but I haven't yet. And the only reason I thought of doing it before was to see if there was any way to press charges against him for making that attempt. But it seemed pretty unlikely that we'd be able to like really build a case. So we didn't try that. We just tried to keep him, 6,000 miles away. So that worked. But yeah, it was weird how I had that sixth sense that he passed away in the Lahaina fires, because as far as I knew, he was in Honolulu. But I know from being on the islands, from visiting a couple of times, and just the way any islands are, that people kind of island hop. And yeah, I don't know. And it's really neither here nor there. Like when I was in my early 20s, I tried to keep track of whether he was in jail or out of jail, but it was so stressful even thinking about him that I quickly learned and realized that if he was in jail, he'd be getting out someday. And if he was not in jail, he'd be getting in someday. So I didn't need to keep tabs on it. The only reason I wanted to keep tabs on it was basically to know if I could feel safe or not. And if he is in jail, I can't really let my guard down. And if he's not in jail, I don't need to be stressed out that he's going to show up on my doorstep, because probably got a warrant out for his arrest and he could get arrested any day. So I know he'd been arrested for like grand theft auto, the stuff that he did, and friend who he had threatened the friend's wife, and I'm sure threatened the friend, and that friend came to visit us in Ohio to tell us about it, to make sure that we knew that he was dangerous. He didn't realize that we already knew he was dangerous. So, he stayed and visited for a long time, because he was like an old friend of my mom's and an old friend of my dad's back from like before they had kids. And then his name was Scotty. So Scotty stayed in town and hung out with us for a few days. And then at the end of the visit, he basically told us he was there. So he had pretended that he was just there to visit. And then he was like, well, really, I came to visit you to find out your world by telling you that he was this really dangerous bad guy. And we were like, yeah, well, we already knew that, even though we didn't know that that attempt was intentional. We bought it that it was an accident for a long time. And yeah, the mind effery, the gaslighting. Anyway, I'm going to keep up with you guys, and I'm going to sign off here shortly because we're just at an hour and a half. If there's anything you guys want to talk about, please feel free. I love being on a live with you, and I'm just so happy to be done with my stupid teacher certification training. I'm just kidding. I'm glad I have it, but man, I'm glad to be done with the training. That was a lot. But I still have another training that I'm doing. That was part of why it was so much, was because I was over training. So the teacher certification and then a mastery thing. So the mastery thing is not as stressful as the certification thing. The mastery thing is more like for your own interest. So anyway, so I still have that, but now I can just focus more on my YouTube channel, which I'm super excited about. Every time I say super excited, I think of Shanann Watts. Oh, we haven't talked about that case today. There's been a lot with it, with NK. Man, she really needs to be investigated, as does that DA, Rourke. Rourke needs to be investigated. NK needs to be investigated. That case is so upsetting. Like, Chris Watts is exactly where he needs to be. Don't get me wrong. I am not defending him by any means. I just think that he was not operating alone. I definitely don't think he was operating alone. And she's just such a lying sack of crap. Do we need to put someone in a headlock? LOL. Yeah, musty bucket. Oh man. Who we tagging? LOL. Upchurch. So this really crazy channel, Veronica, I don't know. I'll get caught up and see if people already put it in the chat. Army for Jesus is the name of the channel. I'll just say it because she's absolutely dog crap, in my opinion. Not sorry. And yeah, she's constantly hashtagging the FBI and Upchurch. I'm sure the FBI is well acquainted with her, and they're just like, oh man, leave us alone. Just like the local law enforcement. Oh dang, that is crazy. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, it's all right, Veronica, because it makes me who I am. It builds character. It definitely seriously builds character. Malibu is insanely expensive, even more so after the fires. Yeah, so they had fires there all the time, and then we actually stayed there for a few years. So, we kind of quit moving all the time because it was like we'd found the oasis or whatever. And so, yeah, I've been around fires. I know how fires act, and I know that one house to another and leave a house in between intact. So paying attention to the Lahaina fires, at first I was like, well, yeah, that's just wildfires. They're wild like that. But yeah, those Lahaina fires, it couldn't be more suspicious with the whole thing with the water rights. Weird too that we got water rights in Lahaina, we got water rights in Truckee. Was another 25-year lawsuit. Truckee, 25-year lawsuit with the granddad and the federal agency that Scammy's parents were representing. So in Hawaii, you've got the water rights and the land rights with the natives, and both of those 25-year lawsuits were lost or won by the locals, so lost by the government. The government was to pay hundreds of millions of dollars to the native folks, and they were to get their water rights. So for those who were entitled to those water rights, they had a deadline of August 7th to put in an application to say, yeah, I want to cash in on the water rights that I won. And then August 8th was the day the fires happened. And then we all know that 2 weeks prior to that was when the governor signed an emergency proclamation that if there was a fire, that all of the land would go to the state. And And that if there was some kind of emergency like that, that they wouldn't have to make any payments. So those payments on the couple $100 million that they owed the locals, the natives, was to start in September. So they didn't have to pay any of that. They got their water, they got the land, they got it all. Right. That was not a conspiracy. Definitely not a conspiracy, right? When we got a certain store in my area, I wouldn't go in them until I found out my stepdad didn't live around me anymore. Oh, a certain store. Interesting. If you want to share, Veronica, if you want to continue with leaving it at that, that's fine too. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm so sorry what you shared about your mom and no justice. That's just gross. A lot of livings go unsolved and get mismanaged and get labeled accidental or self-inflicted, or my favorite, natural accidental self-inflicted. Right? That's what it was. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. It was natural accidental self-inflicted. Give me an effing break. I am so glad you're here to help others, Jazz. Appreciate your brains and strength. Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. I love helping people. I really do. Such a power in that. It's so nice because, when you focus on other people's problems, it's a serious vacation from your own problems. And that's the best. So, and helping people is just fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. And yeah, I mean, just the simplicity of talking about your trauma, I think helps people realize it's okay to talk about your trauma. And because you were a victim, that doesn't make you a victim. Like, that's not who you are. That's not your identity. And yeah, you're so much more than that. I mean, the perp is a perp. Like, that's their identity, right? Like Micah and JP, or like, in my opinion, Micah and JP, in my opinion, Scammy and Kylie. In my opinion, whoever and the Idaho 4, whoever and Trinity Bacchus. That's a really nice comment. Thank you, BoobTube TV. What does Squirrels on Fire, SOF. Squirrels on Fire is Shanda. She's radical. She is a force to be reckoned with. Jazz is very soothing, like Plunder. Oh, Veronica, you're so sweet. And I'm proud to say that Plunder was one of my mentors. I mean, she's wonderful. We have a mutual friend in real life, so that kind of brought us together. We don't know each other in real space, but yeah, she helped me a lot with this whole thing, as did Kelly with What's the Obsession. They're both awesome, and I just admire the heck out of both of them. I kind of made friends with both of them when they were probably around the size that my channel is now, and I hope someday to be as big as their channels are now. Plunder's over 100,000, and Kelly's probably, I'm gonna guess, like 70,000. It's been a long time. Let me see. I got my little gadget right here. What does What's the Obsession? Where is she with her count? I mean, she's doing really well. Her head count of subscribers is, come on, recently, and she's about at 53,000. So that's to get. So the Harvey channel was a lot smaller when I subbed up a few weeks ago. Man, it's funny the way it's acting. Oh my goodness, Paula is at 180 subs right now. Good for her. And Paula used to work in mainstream news media, I'm pretty sure. And they were both so nice to help me in every, even thought of starting a channel if not for the two of them. Yeah, she was in chat, Shanda, Squirrels on Fire, and she might still be listening, but she's gardening. We just watched The Curse of the Were-Rabbit, the Wallace and Gromit movie, the last night that we were in DC, and that movie just totally reminds me of Shanda of Wallace and Gromit, and The Curse of the Were-Rabbit was just amazing, as was Chicken Run and all the others, like the The Wrong Trousers. That's a good one. The Wrong Trousers. I love it. Anyway, let's get all caught up and then sign off. Okay, LOL, I feel old. Veronica, you're just a young thing. What you talking about? What's that lingo? I got, Veronica, too many acronyms these days. There you go. I'm not hippity hoppity anymore. LOL. We'll see. I sometimes think I am because I've got kids, like my oldest is 22 and then a 20-year-old. And then I ask them and they know what's going on. Like rotting, that's the new thing. Like we used to say vegging, like don't say veg, you say rotting. Let's just rot for a while. And it's a good thing. Rotting is a good thing, right? I would not know that if not for having kids. Jez, where are we? They got to be sick of her. Yeah, I know who you're talking about, Tube TV. Wildfires don't melt aluminum rins, just saying. Right. The way these fires act, they are obviously 100% direct energy weapons. They're not wildfires. And to call them wildfires before they were even investigated, it could have been arson. It could have been an electrical fire. I mean, they're trying to say that it was an electrical fire that then turned into a wildfire, but why not call it an electrical fire? Because they were really trying to hide it, like acting. That's a good one. I hadn't thought about that. Damn. Blessings, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you, BoobTube TV. Thanks for coming in. And yeah, everyone check out Veronica Adams' channel. Check out BoobTube TV channel. Check out Squirrels on Fire channel. And do we have any other content creators here? It's so awesome to have content creators come in to my live. Like, it's such a compliment. And it's such a compliment for anybody to come into my life. So I don't want those of you that aren't content creators to think that I'm any less grateful for you guys too. All right. You have a great Manic Monday, Boob. Make Mondays great again. That's cute. He was a big manager at a store, and when they brought them here, he was supposed to be over them. Ew. And how scary that he was like in a position of power. I mean, store manager, that's still a position of power, being people's boss and supervisor. And my phone was freezing up when I was looking at stuff, so I don't know if there's problems with the internet here. Oh, Jazz, I meant the FBI and Upchurch got to be sick of HA. Yeah, tagging them. Yes, not Squirrels on Fire. 1:30. Okay, for reals. Going back to work now. Thank you. See you later. It's a compliment, you shouting us out. Yes, big time store. Gross. And I would almost encourage you, but you know what's best for you, Veronica. I would encourage you to say what this store is so that we can all boycott it because I'm understandable. All right, you guys, thank you so much for being here on this Manic Monday. And I'm hoping to get into this groove where I can do my lives every day because it's my Jones, it's my jam. It just helps me feel like I'm on top of things. And I'm trying to do it as an income, I quit my job a few months ago so I could pursue my dream of the yoga stuff and keep the YouTube because there was just no way I could do it all. And that choice has helped me with so much, but I do need to be creating an income. So I don't want to waste my time with another job. But, I still have my my bag of tools that I can use for different things. So, I'm crafty. I've often been a small business owner. I started that when I was a teenager as a jewelry designer, and then I did that in my 30s as a private practice psychotherapist. And now I'm trying it as my content creator. We'll see. I mean, I know it's a fierce field to try to get a foothold in. And yes, I'm monetized. I just got monetized. I had a lot of trouble, Veronica, because I think of Kylie Rodney's case and my being a Kylie Rodney channel. And I think that all Kylie Rodney channels have been shadow banned. And also, when I set my channel, apparently, allegedly, I set it up as a business channel when I should have set it up as a personal channel. So that's why I've had the runaround with all this for a year and a half. I made a lot of money my first 45 days of being monetized a year ago, January. For my first month, it was over a couple $100, but I never saw a dime of that because then they were saying I needed to do all these things that I didn't really need to. People that are neighbors of Kylie Rodney that with her, and the kid was possibly dating her, possibly got dumped by her, possibly was reuniting with her that night, and had also dated Scammy Smith, one of the Nates, and I call them family of the Hamburglers, that they are entrenched with this platform and the people that own this platform. And then you got to think about the guy with the Z wall, or my face, my book, or Meta, that guy. These people are connected. So I'm surprised I have a channel at all. You could do craft videos too. Yeah, I just like talking about this stuff. Shanda did some craft videos. I've done some yoga videos. I did a lot of giveaways with my jewelry. I get confused with all too. Yeah, and I want to focus. I don't want to be like all spread out. I would always joke like the true crime jewelry home decor yoga channel. Like that's all cool, but focus. So I'm going to focus on signing off, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. I love you. I've missed you. I hope to be part of your routine. And please hit that like button if you haven't already. Where did it go? It's right here in front of me. Ta-da! My creepy thumb. And sending you light and love. Make sure you eat your vegetables, drink your water, get your exercise and your protein, sunlight, fresh air, rest. Make sure you rot. I'm gonna start putting that in my little spiel at the end. Good rotting, everyone. Have a great day. You can't stay focused. I jump around on the cases, and people that watch my channel say they like it that way. So I'm happy with it. I'm just being me. I usually have my notes, what I want to be sure that I say, and then I just let it go from there. And it's kind of a free for all, really. I always like to keep up with you guys and what you're saying and thinking. So peace out. I'm going to watch that 20-minute one link in here. I'm going to put some BoobTube TV links in here. I'm going to put Shanda's last link in here. And I'm going to put a probably some of this Micah Miller stuff too. So like JLR and Robbie Harvey and Tough Topic, because like I said, they've all been doing a great job covering it. So love and light. Thank you, girl. It's very cool to meet you, make your acquaintance, and be connected in this platform. And I'm looking forward to your next video. Another one, Veronica Shea Zone. She is hilarious. She's very cute. I like her a lot. She's very refreshing. And I'll put a link to hers. I think I put a link to one of hers in my last one. And Anyway, if you haven't checked her out yet, check her out. Shay Zone. And she's had her channel for a long time, like you. And sorry that I thought your channel was new the other day because I was like misinformed. It broke up. What? I know that you've had your channel since 2011, Veronica. It broke up. Who was it? Oh, that's funny. See, I think that sometimes it breaks up right where it wants to break up. It's called Shay Zone. Let me see if I can just pull it up and show you. Sometimes the screen will show up. Don't, but I'll put a link to one of her videos too. So she does these makeup things. So can you see this? And she does some gardening videos too. So it's SHAYZOENAY. And she's adorable. She's really funny. Can you see it? So she's been doing some good coverage on Micah Miller. I like her style. And you might like to. But anyway, like I said, I'll put a link. It's not working. There, and now it kind of works, right when I'm about to give up. Okay. Yeah. All right, you guys, get your rotting on. We can rot and watch YouTube, right? It's a good goal to have, to rot. All right, light and love. See you on the next one.